Xeno Academy's Intro to Deathworld Survival. In the hallowed halls of the renowned Xeno Academy, a motley assortment of alien students gathered for their first class in Deathworld survival training. As they filed into the room, a palpable mix of excitement and trepidation hung in the air. At the front stood a tall, rugged human with a weathered face and piercing eyes that seemed to have witnessed the unimaginable. "Welcome, cadets," he began in a gravelly voice that commanded attention. "I am Commander Jax Mason, your instructor for this course." Murmurs rippled through the room as the students traded glances. Commander Mason was a living legend, renowned for his daring exploits and uncanny ability to survive the galaxy's most perilous environments. Some said he had single-handedly fought off a ravenous Zorgaxian fleshrender, armed with nothing but a sharpened stick and sheer force of will. An Aurorian raised a slender, crystalline appendage. "Sir, is it true that you once survived for a whole lunar cycle on the acid swamps of Vorax Prime, subsisting only on the venom of the native slug vipers?" Jax cracked a smile. "That, cadet, is a story for another time. But suffice it to say, by the end of this course, each of you will have your own tales to tell." He brought up a holo display of a planet's surface, a nightmarish hellscape of roiling lava flows, noxious geysers, and jagged obsidian cliffs. "This," Jax said gravely, "is the kind of environment you'll be training to survive. A Class 6 death world, where everything from the atmosphere to the microbes is aggressively hostile to life." The students paled, their earlier excitement curdling into dread. A Zephyrian's fronds wilted as they contemplated the grim image. "But our species have not evolved for such extremes," protested a Byron, his antennae quivering anxiously. "How can we possibly hope to survive in conditions that even our most sophisticated technology cannot tame?" Jax fixed him with a steely gaze. "That, cadet, is precisely the point of this training. Technology can fail, gear can be lost or broken. But the one thing you will always have with you is your mind, your adaptability, your sheer bloody-minded refusal to give in." He brought up the course syllabus, and the students gulped as they scanned the daunting list of challenges and simulations. Acid rain endurance, lava parkour, toxin ingestion resistance. It seemed less like a training regimen and more like a checklist of the galaxy's worst nightmares. "I won't lie to you, cadets," Jax said solemnly. "This course will push you to your limits and beyond. You will discover depths of strength and resilience you never knew you had, because that is what it takes to survive on a death world." He paused, his gaze sweeping the room. "If any of you wish to withdraw, now is your last chance. No one will judge you harshly." A heavy silence fell. Then, one by one, the students straightened their spines and set their jaws, a fire of determination igniting in their eyes. They had not come this far to turn tail at the first sign of adversity. Jax nodded approvingly. "Very well, cadets. Let us begin your journey into the heart of human resilience. Welcome to Deathworld survival training." As the holo display shifted to a dizzying array of survival gear and simulated environments, the students steeled themselves for the trials ahead, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. They would emerge from this crucible forever changed, tempered by the fires of human grit and ingenuity. The galaxy would never seem quite so daunting again. Deathworld simulation. Welcome to planet Zorgax. The airlock hissed open, and the cadets stumbled out onto the surface of planet Zorgax, a searing wind blasting grit into their faces. The landscape before them was a hellish tapestry of jagged obsidian spires, bubbling acid pools, and the twisted remains of failed colonization attempts. "Welcome to your first simulation," Commander Jax Mason's voice crackled over their comm units. "Your objective is simple: survive for 24 hours and make your way to the extraction point. But be warned, on Zorgax, danger lurks in every shadow." The students exchanged uneasy glances, their high-tech survival suits suddenly feeling flimsy and inadequate. A Byron nervously scanned the horizon with his augmented vision, his antennae twitching at every gust of wind. "Remember your training. Jax coached. Assess your surroundings, identify potential threats and resources, and above all, stay alert. They set off across the jagged terrain, the crunch of obsidian shards beneath their feet sounding unnervingly loud in the eerie stillness. As they navigated the treacherous landscape, Jax's voice guided them, pointing out hidden dangers and offering tips for spotting safe shelter and drinkable water. But even with his guidance, the challenges came thick and fast. A Zephyrian yelped in pain as a jet of scalding steam erupted from a fissure, searing their delicate fronds. An Aurorian barely dodged the lightning-quick strike of a venomous needle serpent, its crystalline carapace cracking from the near miss. As the day wore on and their energy reserves dwindled, despair began to set in. "We can't do this," whimpered a Byron, huddled beneath an overhang as a storm of razor-sharp shards raged outside. "We weren't made for this kind of punishment." But Jax's voice cut through their dejection. "You're stronger than you know," he insisted. "When I was stranded on the acid swamps of Vorax Prime, I thought I was done for. But I refused to give up. I found a way to turn the slog viper's venom into a nutrient source and their shed skins into a raft. And when the rescue ship finally arrived, I emerged stronger and wiser for the ordeal." Inspired by his words, the cadets pushed on, improvising solutions to each new crisis. They used the acidic sap of a local plant to etch handholds into a sheer cliff face, and devised a filtration system using the fibrous stems of a bioluminescent lichen to purify the toxic water. As the extraction point finally came into view, the students were battered, exhausted, but flushed with a new sense of pride and capability. They had stared into the abyss of a death world and refused to blink. "Well done, cadets," Jax congratulated them as they boarded the transport pod. "You've taken your first steps into a larger universe, a universe where the only limits are those of your own ingenuity and resolve." As the pod lifted off, the students cast one last glance at the nightmarish landscape below. It had tested them to their limits, but they had emerged tempered and transformed. They knew now that they carried within them a spark of the indomitable human spirit, a spark that could illuminate even the darkest reaches of the cosmos. Trial by fire, honing mind and body. Back at the academy, the cadets threw themselves into their training with renewed fervor. Each day brought fresh challenges designed to push them to their mental and physical limits. They ran obstacle courses in full gravity suits, solved complex puzzles under simulated stress conditions, and practiced emergency repairs on malfunctioning equipment while suspended over vats of corrosive slime. But it was Commander Jax Mason's unorthodox survival techniques that truly captured their imagination. He taught them how to fashion crude but effective weapons from scavenged materials, like a plasma cutter cobbled together from a broken comms unit and a power cell. He showed them how to navigate by the stars, how to predict weather patterns from subtle shifts in atmospheric pressure, and how to communicate across vast distances using nothing but a length of conductive wire and a binary code. Under his tutelage, the students began to tap into reserves of strength and cunning they never knew they possessed. The Aurorian discovered a knack for improvised engineering, able to jury-rig a functional distress beacon from little more than scrap metal and sticky resin. The Zephyrian found that their natural bioluminescence could be used to create mesmerizing light shows that would entrance and disorient potential predators. Even the Byron, whose species was known for their cautious and risk-averse nature, began to develop a taste for creative problem-solving. When a simulated cave-in trapped them in a confined space with dwindling oxygen, they devised a daring plan to create a makeshift airlock using a pressure suit and a sealant foam. But their growing confidence was put to the test when a training accident sent a live power surge coursing through the simulation deck. Suddenly, the harmless holo-environments became all too real, the safety protocols that prevented lasting injury now disabled. In the chaos, a panicked Aurorian cadet became trapped in a malfunctioning airlock, the chamber rapidly filling with a noxious gas. Without hesitation, Jax plunged into the fray, his voice cutting through the din with laser focus. "Stay calm," he commanded. "Assess the situation. What resources do you have at your disposal?" The cadets rallied, their training kicking in. A Zephyrian quickly located the manual override for the airlock, while a Baron hacked into the environmental controls to vent the toxic atmosphere. Within minutes, the crisis was averted, and the Aurorian was safe, coughing and shaken but alive. As the adrenaline ebbed, Jax gathered the students, his expression solemn. "In a real crisis, panic is your worst enemy," he told them. "It clouds your judgment, makes you forget your training. The key is to stay focused, to break the problem down into manageable steps." He looked each of them in the eye, his gaze unwavering. "Remember, your mind is your greatest weapon. Keep it sharp, keep it clear, and there is no challenge you cannot overcome." The students nodded, a new resolve settling over them. They had faced the fire and emerged tempered, their bond forged in the crucible of shared adversity. They were no longer just cadets. They were survivors, united by a common purpose and an unshakable faith in their own abilities. As they returned to their training, their movements were imbued with a new sense of purpose and poise. They were ready for whatever the cosmos could throw at them. They were ready to prove that the indomitable human spirit could endure even in the most inhospitable reaches of the universe. The Apex Predator Challenge. The cadets stood at the edge of a dense, foreboding jungle, the chittering and screeches of unseen creatures echoing from the shadowy depths. They checked their gear with practiced efficiency: grappling hooks, plasma knives, and makeshift camo ponchos woven from the fibrous leaves of a native plant. "This is your final test," Commander Jax Mason announced, his voice grave. "Somewhere in that jungle lurks a creature known as the Dreadstalker, a cunning, ruthless predator that has evolved to hunt and kill anything that enters its territory. Your mission is to evade the stalker for 24 hours and make it to the extraction point on the far side of the jungle." The students exchanged nervous glances, the gravity of the challenge sinking in. The Dreadstalker was infamous, even among the fearsome fauna of Deathworlds. It was said to possess an uncanny intelligence, able to anticipate and counter the strategies of its prey. Jax handed each cadet a small disc-shaped device. "These are your lifelines. If at any point you feel you are in mortal danger, activate the beacon and a rescue team will extract you immediately. But be aware, using the lifeline is an automatic fail of the test." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the group. "Remember your training. Use the environment to your advantage. Move silently, leave no trace. And if you do encounter the stalker," he hefted a wicked-looking spear, its tip gleaming with an iridescent venom, "strike hard, strike fast, and don't hesitate." With that, he stepped aside, and the cadets melted into the jungle, each choosing their own path. As the dense foliage closed around them, they felt the weight of the challenge pressing in, the knowledge that they were now in the domain of an apex predator. Hours passed in tense, watchful silence. They moved like ghosts, blending into the dappled shadows, their senses straining for any sign of the stalker. But the jungle kept its secrets, the only sound the pounding of their own hearts. Then, without warning, a blood-curdling shriek shattered the stillness. The Aurorian cadet burst from the underbrush, their crystalline carapace gashed and leaking luminous ichor. Close on their heels came the Dreadstalker, a nightmarish fusion of scales, claws, and rippling muscle, its eyes glinting with a malevolent intelligence. The other cadets froze, paralyzed by the sight of the creature that had haunted their nightmares. But Jax's training held fast. The Byron cadet grabbed a vine, swinging down to snatch the Aurorian out of the stalker's path. The Zephyrian unleashed a blinding flare of bioluminescence, confusing the predator's senses, and the human cadet, a quiet, unassuming individual who had often struggled in training, stepped forward, the venomous spear clasped tight in their hands. They met the stalker's charge head-on, dodging a slashing claw and driving the spear deep into the creature's flank. The stalker roared in pain and rage, but the human held fast, jaw clenched in grim determination. For a moment, Predator and prey were locked in a primal struggle, a clash of wills as ancient as life itself. Then, with a final defiant cry, the human wrenched the spear free, and the stalker slunk back into the shadows, beaten and bloodied. The cadets regrouped, shaken but alive, their bond tempered by the shared brush with death. They made it to the extraction point with minutes to spare, emerging from the jungle battered and weary, but with a newfound respect for each other and for the untapped reserves of strength within themselves. As they boarded the transport, Commander Jax Mason greeted them, his eyes shining with pride. "Well done, cadets," he said softly. "You've faced your fears, stared down death itself, and emerged stronger for it. Never forget this moment. Carry it with you, and know that there is no challenge you cannot overcome, no odds you cannot defy." The cadets looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. They had come to this place as individuals, each with their own doubts and limitations, but they left as a team, forged in the crucible of the death world, united by an unbreakable bond of trust and shared experience. As the transport lifted off, carrying them back to the safety of the academy, they knew that they would never be the same. They had gazed into the heart of darkness and found within themselves a light that could never be extinguished. They were survivors, explorers, pioneers of the indomitable human spirit, and the universe would never seem quite so daunting again. Survival of the smartest. The cadets sat in a quiet corner of the academy gardens, nursing their bruises and reflecting on the incredible journey they had shared. The lush foliage and gentle birdsong seemed almost surreal after the nightmarish death world simulations, a reminder of the beauty and diversity of life in the universe. Commander Jax Mason sat with them, his usually stern face softened by a contemplative smile. "You've all come so far," he mused, his gaze distant. "When you first arrived here, you were uncertain, untested. But look at you now, survivors, innovators, problem solvers of the highest caliber." The Aurorian cadet tilted their head, crystalline eyes curious. "Commander, I have to ask, why do you push us so hard? Why subject us to such extreme challenges?" Jax leaned forward, his expression earnest. "Because, cadet, the universe is not a gentle place. It is vast and wondrous and full of untold dangers. And as members of the galactic community, it is our duty, our privilege, to explore and understand it." He gestured to the diverse array of life around them. "Every species here has something unique to offer, a perspective and skill set born of their evolutionary history. But humans, we have a special role to play." The cadets leaned in, intrigued. "What do you mean?" asked the Byron. "Our species evolved on a death world," Jax explained, "a place where every day was a fight for survival, where we had to be cunning, adaptable, and relentless just to see the next sunrise. And that crucible forged in us a resilience and ingenuity that is unmatched in the known universe." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the cadets. "That is what I wanted to awaken in each of you, not just the ability to survive, but the drive to thrive in the face of adversity. Because it is that spirit, that unquenchable spark of human determination, that will carry us to the stars and beyond." The cadets nodded, a new understanding dawning in their eyes. They had thought they were simply learning to survive, but now they saw the deeper purpose behind their training. "When I was stranded on that death world all those years ago," Jax continued, his voice distant, "it was not my strength or my skills that saved me. It was my refusal to give up, my determination to find a way, no matter how impossible the odds seemed." He fixed each cadet with a penetrating stare. "And that, more than any weapon or tool, is the greatest gift of our species. The ability to stare into the abyss and say, 'Not today.' To take the worst the universe can throw at us and turn it into an opportunity for growth and discovery." The cadets felt a swell of pride and purpose rising within them. They had come to see their death world training as a trial to be endured, but now they understood it as a crucible of transformation, a catalyst for unlocking their full potential. "So where do we go from here?" asked the Zephyrian, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with excitement. Jack smiled, a glint of adventure in his eye. Wherever our curiosity and courage take us, there are endless wonders waiting to be discovered, countless challenges to be overcome. And with the skills and mindset you have developed, I have no doubt that you will be at the forefront of that great exploration. He stood, his posture proud and resolute. Never forget what you have learned here. Carry the spirit of the Deathworld with you, and let it be a light in the darkness, a beacon of hope and possibility for all who follow in your footsteps. As the cadets rose to join him, they felt a newfound sense of unity and purpose. They were no longer just survivors, but pioneers, explorers of the great unknown. And with the indomitable human spirit as their guide, they knew that no frontier was beyond their reach. They strode forth from the gardens, ready to take on the universe and all its wonders. The trials of the Deathworld had forged them, honed them into something new and powerful. And as they set their sights on the stars, they knew that they carried within them the greatest gift of their species, the unwavering conviction that, no matter the odds, they would always find a way to rise, to adapt, to overcome. The future was theirs to shape, and they would meet it head-on, with all the courage, ingenuity, and indomitable spirit of their human heritage. For they were the survivors, the innovators, the bold pioneers of a new era. And the universe would never be the same.